Good evening, everyone. Welcome to episode 3 of Lockdown Theater. Tonight, we're looking at a bit of a different genre than the past 2 episodes, the musical, with 2002's Chicago, Oscar winner for Best Picture, among other things. This film is commonly credited with reigniting the contemporary musical craze that has been going on it's not really a craze anymore, going on over the past, since the new millennium, since this film came out. This movie is the reason why we had movies like Dreamgirls, which incidentally was directed by this film's screenwriter, Bill Condon, and movies like Hairspray and Rock of Ages, and many of those other Broadway musicals that have been filmed for the theater. This film is Rob Marshall's film debut, if you can believe it. He also choreographed, and this is really the movie that Bob Fosse would have made if he were alive to have made it. Bob Fosse, as you may or may not know, was the creative force behind, and the director and choreographer of the original musical Chicago back in the 70s, and he was a respected director himself, having done the Oscar winner Cabaret and Lenny and Star 80. This film is actually dedicated to Bob Fosse, and his influence is felt throughout the entire production, not just through the dancing, but through the visuals. And it shares a lot of the same kind of visual and narrative thrust as Cabaret. But Chicago brilliantly opens up the stage play and makes it just really accessible, and makes the story much more linear than I found the play to be. My little 1920s hat tried to get into the mood, but it's knocking into my glasses, but whatever. And this film is really the closest thing to being at the actual theater and experiencing the musical live that is possible to do in the cinema. And this was also true with Dreamgirls a couple years later, and also the recent Elton John biopic Rocket Man, which I found to be extraordinarily theatrical as well. There's just so much energy throughout this film, not just with the dancing and the singing and the acting, with the creativity. I mean, the staging and the lighting is just beautiful and vivid and electrifying, really, is the word for it. And the actors, the lead actors, are just invest their roles with so much, again, energy and passion that it really comes across. I mean, Catherine Zeta-Jones, of course, who won the Best Supporting Actress Oscar for her role as Velma Kelly in this movie, is nothing short of transfixing. I mean, the woman, you can't take your eyes off of her, and the scope of her talent just bounces off the screen to the viewer. It's really something to behold. And Queen Latifah, who up until this point hadn't really been known as much of an actress, is mind-blowing as Mama Morton, the prison matron. And her big number will blow you away. I mean, the force that she brings to this role is something to see. And Renee Zellweger, who plays Roxy Hart, is interesting because she really gives you a sense of the musical talent that she would bring to, of course, she won the Oscar for Best Actress this past year for her portrayal of Judy Garland in Judy. So there's sort of an interesting progenitor of her role as Judy Garland. And of course, the actors and actresses, the lead, Zeta-Jones, Zellweger, and Richard Gere, and Queen Latifah, do all their own singing and dancing in this film. And Richard Gere, even though he's not much of a singer, really sells his role as Billy Flynn in his acting and in his commitment to the part of the smarmy lawyer. He's got a couple of great sequences. His razzle-dazzle number during Roxy Hart's trial is is really a showstopper in its own right. It shows the kind of publicity circus that criminal trials can be. And he has a tap dancing number about 3/4 of the way through the film that's really fun to watch. So just a couple of numbers that I want to call attention to. The Cell Block Tango number, which is about 1/4 of the way through the film. Just the way it's staged, and it's sexy in that kind of a dark noir kind of way when some of these female inmates are telling their stories about how they got to be in jail. He had it coming, and it's just very, it's brilliantly done, and the lightings and the silhouettes. It's a wonderful sequence to watch. Also, the Roxy Hart press conference. I forget the name of the. Oh, this is awful, but I forget the name of the song. But the way it's staged with almost like with marionettes, but live dancers. But it's supposed to be sort of. Look at that! But they're supposed to be simulating marionettes. It's really a very creative way to do a musical number. And then, of course, I want to also call attention to John C. Reilly as Roxy's sort of doormat husband, Amos. And he's got a number, Mr. Cellophane, which is a wonderful number that shows the invisibility of his character, really. And Reilly, I don't know if he necessarily got enough kudos when this movie came out, but he really stood out to me. He really sells the character in his sort of nothingness, and it's really an interesting role, and he plays it very convincingly. So yes, so 2002 Chicago, it is a brilliant piece of cinema in every sense of the word, visually, creatively, musically, narratively, acting-wise, directorially, and it won for all, I forget, other than Catherine Zeta-Jones' Oscar and Best Picture. I can't recall the other awards it won, but it won a bunch. It says here it won 6 Academy Awards, so there you go. It's a wonderful film, and it's really just very entertaining and dazzling, and it's a great piece of entertainment, and that's what movies should, at their very basic essence, should really be. So if you were looking for something to entertain you for a couple hours, it's under 2 hours. It's not an hour and a half, but I think it's like an hour and 55 minutes, so I might be pushing it. It's a 2-hour movie. If you're looking for something diverting and dazzling and really something to really dazzle your eyes, then I would definitely, and ears, I would definitely recommend Chicago from director Rob Marshall, starring Catherine Zeta-Jones, Renee Zellweger, and Richard Gere, and Queen Latifah. And yeah, that's it. So thank you for tuning in to episode 3 of Lockdown Theater. Stay tuned for episode 4. I haven't decided what movie I'm going to watch yet, so I'll keep it a surprise. So until then, be good to each other and be safe. Take care.